In 1968, American television changed forever. A poised, elegant black woman stepped into living rooms across the country, not as a maid or a nanny, not as a comic stereotype, but as a professional, a mother, and a lead. Her name was Diahann Carroll, and her show was Julia. Julia was the first network sitcom to center a black woman in a non-servant role. Diahann Carroll played Julia Baker, a widowed nurse raising her young son. She was competent, she was compassionate, she was human. And in Hollywood, that was a revolution. Before Julia, black women on television were allowed only a handful of roles. They were housekeepers, mammies, side characters, or invisible altogether. The industry believed audiences would reject black womanhood if it wasn't framed as struggle, servitude, or comedic relief. Hollywood had unwritten rules. Black women could appear, but not thrive. They could support others, but not lead their own story. Diahann Carroll refused to accept those rules. She negotiated every part of how Julia would be portrayed. How she spoke, how she dressed, how she parented, how she carried herself as a nurse, as a woman, and as a black professional. Carroll knew exactly what she was doing. "If I am to represent us," she said, "I will not be minimized." Julia challenged two worlds at once. White audiences were not used to seeing a modern, educated black woman who did not revolve around them. Some critics claimed the show was unrealistic or too perfect. Some black activists said Julia didn't show enough of the pain, racism, or poverty that shaped everyday life. But Diahann Carroll understood the moment. Black America already knew pain. What it needed to see was a possibility. For once, a black woman was not defined by hardship. She was defined by her work, her motherhood, and her dignity. Julia was not trauma television. It was a mirror reflecting who black women could be if given the chance to breathe, to grow, and to be seen as whole human beings. It was a quiet, powerful rebellion against decades of on-screen stereotypes. Hollywood noticed. In 1969, Diahann Carroll became the first black woman to win the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a television series. That moment opened the door to a new era. Without Julia, the landscape of black television would look very different. No Jeffersons, no 227, no Girlfriends, no Scandal, no Insecure. Diahann Carroll walked through the door first, so others could walk through it later. Julia did not play to old expectations. It redefined them. It told America that a black woman could lead, could succeed, and could be the center of the story. There was no apology, no permission asked, and Hollywood learned to adjust. Diahann Carroll did not just star in a television show. She negotiated the future of representation. She made television ask a different question. What happens when the person who has been pushed to the margins finally stands in the center? That answer was Julia, and nothing on TV has been the same since. What if I told you that Jackie Kennedy's most iconic looks weren't actually designed by who you think? That pillbox hat, those immaculate suits, that effortless grace. The true architect was Lowe, a brilliant black designer whose name was erased from fashion history. The gown Jackie wore to JFK's inaugural ball, Lowe created it under incredible pressure, rebuilding it from scratch after a flood destroyed her original work just days before the event. But while Jackie got the spotlight, Anne remained invisible. This wasn't just one dress. It's a pattern of black genius being systematically erased from fashion history. Today, we can change that by supporting black designers and demanding their stories be told. The real fashion pioneers deserve their flowers. What if I told you the true legacy of Madam C.J. Walker isn't just about hair, but about a groundbreaking empire of empowerment? Beyond the beauty products, she strategically invested millions into the black community. Forget everything you think you know about Madam C.J. Walker. While her hair care fortune is legendary, the real shocker is how she became one of America's most pivotal philanthropists. She meticulously funded education, establishing scholarships and supporting institutions. Her wealth wasn't just accumulated, but strategically deployed to uplift an entire race. She quietly funded civil rights organizations and anti-lynching campaigns. Her business acumen was a direct engine for social change. She championed the arts, supporting Black musicians, writers, and performers, creating platforms for cultural expression and artistic excellence. She understood that true empowerment came through economic independence and community building, training thousands of women to become entrepreneurs and business owners. Her philanthropic network touched every aspect of Black life, from orphanages to elderly care, from youth programs to professional development. The institutions she funded still stand today, continuing her mission. Her vision of systematic empowerment laid the groundwork for generations of progress. This is the untold story of how her entrepreneurial genius became a powerful force for social justice, leaving an indelible mark far beyond the salon. Madam C.J. Walker, America's first female self-made millionaire and unsung philanthropic pioneer. Elijah McCoy was a man who refused to let obstacles define him. Born in 1844 in Ontario, Canada, he came from parents who had escaped slavery in Kentucky through the Underground Railroad, a secret network that led countless people to freedom in the North. His parents, George and Mildred McCoy, knew what it meant to struggle and sacrifice. After starting a new life in Canada, they worked hard as farmers and blacksmiths, determined to give their children opportunities they never had. They believed that education was the key to real freedom. Elijah showed a natural gift for fixing things. As a boy, he loved taking machines apart just to see how they worked. His parents saw his talent and made an incredible decision. They would send him overseas to study mechanical engineering in Scotland. It wasn't easy. The McCoys weren't wealthy, and saving enough money took years of hard work, but they believed in their son. So at just 15 years old, Elijah McCoy traveled across the ocean to study at the University of Edinburgh. It was an amazing achievement for the child of formerly enslaved parents. After earning his certification as a mechanical engineer, Elijah returned to the United States full of hope. But when he tried to find work, doors slammed in his face. No matter how qualified he was, companies refused to hire a Black engineer. Instead, he took a job as a fireman and oiler for the Michigan Central Railroad. It wasn't glamorous. He shoveled coal and oiled the train's moving parts by hand. But while he worked, Elijah paid attention. He noticed that trains had to stop often just to be oiled, wasting time and money. He thought, there has to be a better way. In 1872, Elijah McCoy invented something that would change the railroad industry forever: the automatic lubricator. His design used steam pressure to drip oil onto the engine's moving parts while it was still running. This simple but brilliant invention meant trains could run longer and smoother without stopping. Railroads, factories, and ships across the country started using McCoy's lubricator. It became so famous that when other companies tried to copy it, engineers and mechanics would ask for the real McCoy. They didn't want a cheap imitation. They wanted Elijah's original design. That phrase, the real McCoy, is still used today to mean the genuine article. Over his lifetime, Elijah McCoy earned more than 50 patents for his inventions. He improved his lubricator design and also created devices like a folding ironing board and a lawn sprinkler. Despite facing racism and financial struggles, he never stopped innovating or believing in his abilities. Elijah McCoy passed away in 1929, but his legacy continues to inspire. In 2001, he was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame for his incredible contributions to engineering and industry. Elijah McCoy's life is a story of talent, hard work, and perseverance. It's also a story of parents who believed so strongly in their son's potential that they sacrificed everything to give him a chance. He wasn't just an inventor. He was a pioneer. a man whose brilliance still moves the world today. Elijah McCoy, the real McCoy. Dr. Jane Cooke Wright was a groundbreaking doctor who changed the way we treat cancer. She was born in 1919 in New York City into a family that valued medicine. Her father, Dr. Louis Wright, was one of the first African-American doctors at Harlem Hospital. Growing up, he inspired Dr. Wright to follow in his footsteps and make a difference in the medical world. At the time when Dr. Wright was studying medicine, it wasn't easy for women, especially black women, to become doctors. But Dr. Wright didn't let those challenges stop her. After earning her medical degree in 1945 from New York University School of Medicine, she began working at Harlem Hospital, where she quickly became known for her expertise in cancer research. In the 1950s, Dr. Wright began studying chemotherapy, which was still a new and experimental treatment for cancer. She was one of the first to figure out how to make chemotherapy safer and more effective. She even developed a method of giving chemotherapy directly into the bloodstream, which was a big breakthrough at the time. This method helped more people survive cancer and became an important part of cancer treatment today. Dr. Wright didn't just change medicine, she also inspired others. As one of the only African-American women in her field, she became a role model for other women and people of color who wanted to work in medicine. She was the first woman to be appointed as an assistant dean at New York Medical College, where she helped open doors for future generations of doctors. In her work, Dr. Wright showed that science and medicine could break down barriers and create opportunities for everyone, no matter their background. Her discoveries in cancer treatment saved lives and continue to shape the way we fight cancer today. Dr. Jane Cooke Wright wasn't just a scientist, she was a pioneer who made history. She proved that with hard work, determination, and a passion for helping others, anyone can change the world.
Have you ever heard the term Buffalo Soldiers? You might think of Bob Marley's iconic song, or maybe you've heard it in a history class. But the real story is so much deeper, so much more fascinating, and yes, it has a surprising connection to Jamaica. Let's rewind to the end of the American Civil War in 1865. The United States Army needed troops to secure the western frontier. So, Congress authorized several all-black regiments to fill this need for troops. These men, many formerly enslaved, became the 9th Cavalry, 10th Cavalry, and infantry units. Many former slaves saw the military as a stable career, coming from a place where they had no opportunities. It seemed like a sense of purpose and an escape from poverty. However, despite their sense of duty and support for the American military, they still faced racism and still were provided with low provisions. Native American tribes called them Buffalo Soldiers. Maybe it was their dark curly hair, maybe their fierce fighting spirit, or the way they moved together like an unstoppable herd. But what does this have to do with Jamaica? After the war, the United States military was stationed everywhere and beyond. This included black former slaves that joined the military. Though these men worked hard for the military, they were still dealing with racism and obtaining meager supplies while being put in the most dangerous military positions. During the Spanish-American War, some former slaves were deployed to Cuba, and some former slaves were deployed to the Philippines. But a small number of these former slaves made their way to Jamaica. Most arrived around the turn of the 20th century. Some joined British colonial regiments. They were used to help keep order, or training local forces. After the war, many decided to stay in Jamaica to escape the racial tensions they dealt with back home before the war. Jamaica felt like a new beginning for them. So what happened to them? They didn't disappear. They married into local families in Jamaica. They started businesses of their own. And they brought traditions that blended into Jamaican culture. Their legacy lives in communities they helped to build. They have stories of bravery, perseverance, and unity that are still told today. Their impact goes beyond history books. When Bob Marley sang Buffalo Soldier, Dreadlock Rasta, he wasn't only recalling the past. He connected that spirit of struggle and resilience to a new generation, reminding Jamaicans, and really everyone, that the fight for dignity and freedom continues. So, next time you hear Buffalo Soldier, remember it's not just a song, not just a chapter in someone else's history. It's a story that spans continents, a story about hope, courage, and the search for a place to truly belong.
Imagine walking into a bank in the late 1800s, only to be told you can't open an account, not because of your money, but because of your skin color. For many Black Americans, this wasn't just an isolated incident. It was the harsh reality. But in 1888, something changed. A group of determined Black businessmen, tired of being excluded from the financial system, decided to create their own bank. A place where Black people could save money, buy homes, start businesses, and invest in their future. This was the birth of Capital Savings Bank, the first Black-owned bank in U.S. history. After slavery ended, many Black Americans worked hard to build better lives. They farmed land, started small businesses, and worked for wages. But one major barrier stood in their way. White-owned banks refused to serve them. Banks wouldn't approve loans to Black business owners. They wouldn't let Black families open savings accounts to protect their money. Without access to financial services, it was almost impossible to build wealth. This wasn't by accident. Keeping Black people out of the banking system kept them poor and dependent. But Black leaders weren't going to let that stand. In 1888, a group of Black entrepreneurs and business leaders in Washington, D.C. came together with a bold idea. If white banks won't serve us, we'll create our own. With that, they founded Capital Savings Bank, the first ever Black-owned bank in the U.S. The bank opened its doors on October 17, 1888, and for the first time, Black people had a safe place to deposit their earnings, take out loans, and build wealth. Unlike white-owned banks, Capital Savings Bank invested in the Black community. They provided home loans so Black families could buy houses. They gave business loans so Black entrepreneurs could start and grow businesses. And they offered savings accounts to help families protect and grow their money. This was a game changer. For the first time, Black people could control their own financial future. Capital Savings Bank wasn't just about money. It was about power and independence. Black Americans had fought for freedom, and now they were fighting for economic freedom. More Black businesses opened, creating jobs and strengthening the community. Black families could buy homes, passing down wealth to future generations. The bank proved that Black people could run their own financial institutions, despite racist beliefs at the time. But its impact didn't end there. The idea spread, and more Black-owned banks started opening across the country. From the Douglas National Bank in Kansas City to the Mechanics and Farmers Bank in North Carolina, Black financial institutions grew stronger. These banks kept Black money circulating within the Black community, helping people buy homes, open businesses, and invest in their future. The fight for economic independence isn't over. Even today, Black Americans face racial disparities in banking. from loan denials to unfair interest rates. But the spirit of Capital Savings Bank lives on. Black-owned banks like One United Bank, Carver Bank, and Citizens Trust Bank continue to serve Black communities, just like Capital Savings Bank did over 130 years ago. The lesson? Economic power is just as important as political power. And when one door closes, we build our own. Capital Savings Bank may be gone, but its legacy still shapes Black financial power today. It proved that Black people didn't need permission to build their own wealth. We just needed opportunity. And when the system denied us that opportunity, we created it ourselves. If you learned something new today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And tell me, did you know about Capital Savings Bank before this video? Let's keep this history alive. Welcome back to the BLK History Channel. Today, we're talking about a woman so legendary, so fearless, that the U.S. government had to give her own holiday. March 10th is Harriet Tubman Day. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why March 10th? Why do we celebrate her? And why does her story still matter in 2025? Well, sit back, relax, and let's dive into the life of one of the greatest freedom fighters in American history. Harriet Tubman wasn't just an escaped slave. She wasn't just a conductor on the Underground Railroad. She was a military spy, a nurse, a warrior, a freedom fighter, and a walking revolution. Born Araminta Minty Ross around 1822 in Maryland, Harriet grew up enslaved. Life was brutal. She was beaten, starved, and even suffered a head injury that caused her to have visions for the rest of her life. But instead of letting that break her, she believed those visions were messages from God, guiding her toward something greater. And greater she became. In 1849, Harriet did something bold. She escaped. She followed the North Star all the way to freedom in Pennsylvania. But here's where she went from survivor to legend. She didn't just save herself. She went back, again and again. She made 19 trips into slave territory, freeing over 300 people. That is not just bravery. That is superhero-level courage. Now, let's get into why we celebrate her on March 10th. Harriet Tubman passed away on March 10th, 1913, at about 90 years old. That's right. She lived through slavery, the Civil War, the Reconstruction era, and into the 20th century. She saw America change because she helped change it. In 1990, Congress and President George H.W. Bush made it official. March 10th is Harriet Tubman Day in the United States. It's a day to honor her courage, her sacrifices, and her fight for freedom. But let's be honest, one day is not enough to celebrate Harriet Tubman. So, why does Harriet Tubman still matter in 2025? Because her fight is not just history, it is a blueprint. Think about it. She risked her life to free others. She saw injustice and took action. She showed us what it means to be fearless in the face of oppression. And her impact is not just in history books. In 2030, her face is set to be on the $20 bill. That's right, she is taking Andrew Jackson's spot. A slave owner's face replaced by a freedom fighter. That is the kind of poetic justice that stands the test of time. So how do we honor her? We can learn her story, read books, watch movies, and share her legacy. Visit her historic sites, the Harriet Tubman National Historical Park in New York and her birthplace in Maryland are both must-sees. Or simply take a moment to reflect. Think about the fact that one small woman standing barely 5 feet tall changed the course of history. So the next time someone says one person cannot make a difference, tell them about Harriet Tubman. That is it for today, family. Now that you know why March 10th is Harriet Tubman Day, make sure you honor her legacy. Drop a comment below. What is your favorite Harriet Tubman fact? Let's talk about it. And as always, like, share, and subscribe to the BLK History Channel. Because our history is not just in the past, it is happening right now. Smallpox, a disease that once tore through cities, leaving death in its wake. In the early 18th century, colonial Boston was no exception. The disease spread like wildfire, taking lives, sparing few, and striking fear into the hearts of the people. But in the midst of it all, an enslaved man named Onesimus held a secret, one that would alter the course of medical history. Onesimus was brought to Boston in the early 1700s and enslaved by Cotton Mather, a well-known Puritan minister. Like many enslaved Africans, his true origins, his real name, and the depth of his knowledge were stripped away, reduced to what his captors chose to see. But Onesimus carried with him something powerful, the wisdom of his homeland, knowledge passed down through generations. At some point, Mather questioned Onesimus about smallpox. The response he received was not what he expected. Onesimus told him that in his home country, people did not simply fear smallpox, they prepared for it. They had a method, one that involved taking material from an infected person's sores and deliberately introducing it into the body of a healthy person. A small wound, a controlled infection, and then immunity. This practice, known as variolation, had been used for centuries in Africa as well as in China and the Ottoman Empire. But to Mather and most of colonial New England, it was unheard of. The idea that an enslaved African knew something about medicine, something that could prevent disease, was beyond their comprehension. Mather, however, was intrigued. He began researching and soon found that similar methods had been practiced in other parts of the world. Convinced that Onesimus was telling the truth, he saw an opportunity. Then, in 1721, a deadly smallpox epidemic swept through Boston. The city was in crisis. Mather urged doctors to try this African method, but he was met with resistance. Many in the medical community rejected the idea. Others feared that deliberately introducing smallpox, even in a controlled way, was too dangerous. But one doctor, Zabdiel Boylston, decided to take the risk. He began inoculating people, starting with his own son and his enslaved workers. The results were undeniable. While nearly 15% of those who contracted smallpox naturally died, only about 2% of those who had been inoculated suffered the same fate. The numbers spoke for themselves, and yet resistance continued. Some saw it as unnatural, even sinful. Others simply refused to believe that an African practice could hold any value. Mather faced public outrage. A bomb was even thrown into his house with a note that read, "Cotton Mather, you dog, damn you. I'll inoculate you with this." But the truth could not be ignored. The method worked. Slowly, opinions began to shift. variolation spread, saving countless lives, not just in Boston, but throughout the colonies and beyond. Onesimus's contribution, however, was largely erased. His knowledge had changed the course of medicine in America, but his name faded into the background. There is little record of what happened to him after these events. Some say he was able to buy his freedom. Others believe he remained enslaved. What we do know is that the wisdom he shared laid the foundation for future advancements in immunization. Decades later, smallpox inoculation would evolve into vaccination, pioneered by Edward Jenner, and later leading to the eventual eradication of smallpox in the 20th century. But long before that, before science had a name for it, before Western medicine took credit, there was Onesimus and the knowledge of his people, ignored, resisted, yet undeniably effective. His story is a reminder of how African knowledge and traditions have shaped the world, even when history refuses to acknowledge it. A reminder that even in the depths of oppression, wisdom persisted. And a reminder that Black history is not just a record of struggle, but a testament to resilience, brilliance, and impact. This is the story of Onesimus, and this is the BLK History Channel. There are moments in history that shake the very foundation of trust between a people and its institutions. Stories that force us to ask, how could this happen? How could human lives be treated as mere test subjects, forgotten, discarded, and betrayed? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most infamous and unethical medical experiments in U.S. history, the Tuskegee Study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male. But this isn't just a story of government deception. It's also a story of resistance, resilience, and the lasting scars left on Black America. And there's another piece of this puzzle that many don't know. The Tuskegee Airmen, Black pilots who fought bravely in World War II, were also unknowingly drawn into this dark chapter of history. We'll explore their connection, the men who suffered, the survivors who spoke out, and how this horrifying experiment changed medical ethics forever. In 1932, during the Great Depression, Macon County, Alabama, a rural, predominantly Black community, became the center of a secret medical experiment. Healthcare was scarce, and many Black families had little access to doctors. That's when the U.S. Public Health Service, in collaboration with the Tuskegee Institute, stepped in. They claimed they were launching a study to help treat what locals called bad blood, a vague term used for a variety of illnesses. But the truth was far more sinister. 600 Black men were recruited for the study. Of them, 399 had syphilis and 201 did not. None of them were told they had the disease. None were given treatment. Instead, they were promised free medical exams, hot meals, and even burial insurance. These men, husbands, fathers, and sons, believed they were being cared for. In reality, they were being observed as their health deteriorated. This was not a medical study. It was an experiment in human suffering. Even when penicillin was discovered as a cure for syphilis in 1947, these men were deliberately left untreated. The U.S. government had the means to save their lives, but instead chose to watch the disease run its course. Some of the men sought treatment elsewhere, but when they did, government officials stepped in and warned local doctors not to treat them. They were marked, tagged, and essentially sentenced to death. Their wives became infected. Their children were born with congenital syphilis. Entire families were torn apart, all for the sake of a cruel scientific observation. But the Tuskegee Study didn't just affect these men, it extended beyond them. At the same time this study was taking place, the Tuskegee Airmen were making history. These were Black pilots trained at the Tuskegee Institute, breaking racial barriers in the military and proving their skill in World War II. They fought for a country that often refused to fight for them. But even these heroes weren't spared from medical exploitation. Some of the pilots were unknowingly subjected to the same unethical medical screenings as the men in the study. The government wanted to see how syphilis affected even the strongest Black men, using these airmen as another test group without their knowledge or consent. Imagine serving your country, risking your life in battle, only to come home and realize you are being used as a medical experiment. The injustice is staggering. For 40 years, the study continued. For 40 years, the government knowingly let these men suffer. It wasn't until 1972, when journalist Jean Heller exposed the story to the public, that the experiment finally came to an end. By then, the damage was irreversible. Dozens of men had died from syphilis-related complications. Their families had suffered unimaginable loss. A class action lawsuit followed, and in 1974, the government was forced to settle, awarding $10 million to survivors and their families. But no amount of money could undo what had been done. Some of the men lived long enough to tell their stories. One survivor, Herman Shaw, spoke out in 1997 when President Bill Clinton formally apologized on behalf of the United States government. Shaw was 94 years old when he stood before the nation and said, "We were treated as if we were guinea pigs." His voice shook, but he spoke with dignity. A man who had suffered yet lived to see some measure of justice. The government's apology was long overdue, but for many, it did little to repair the deep wounds left behind. The Tuskegee Study did more than destroy lives. It created a lasting mistrust between the Black community and the medical system. And that mistrust didn't just disappear. Even today, skepticism about medical research, vaccines, and government health programs can be traced back to this betrayal. But the study also forced major changes in medical ethics. In 1979, the Belmont Report was issued, establishing ethical guidelines for research involving human subjects. Institutional review boards, or IRBs, were created to ensure experiments were conducted with proper oversight. The National Research Act was signed into law, requiring informed consent and ethical accountability. These protections were put in place to ensure that no group would ever be exploited like this again. But the scars of Tuskegee remain. So what do we take away from this? The Tuskegee Study is not just a dark chapter in history, it's a warning, a reminder of what happens when racism, power, and science collide without ethics or accountability. We remember the men who suffered. We honor the Tuskegee Airmen, whose legacy should be one of valor, not victimhood. And we demand that history never repeats itself. Because if we forget, we risk allowing it to happen again. This has been the BLK History Channel. If you found this story important, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for your support. Imagine a place where Black success thrived against all odds. A place where Black doctors, lawyers, and entrepreneurs built a self-sustaining economy, a beacon of hope in a segregated America. That place was Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, better known as Black Wall Street. At the dawn of the 20th century, Black Americans faced deep-seated racism and exclusion from the broader economy. But in Greenwood, they built something extraordinary, a community filled with businesses, banks, luxury shops, hotels, and even its own hospital. Money circulated within the neighborhood multiple times before leaving, making Greenwood one of the wealthiest Black communities in America. But that success made it a target. On May 31st, 1921, a young Black man named Dick Rowland was accused of assaulting a white woman, an accusation rooted in racial tension rather than truth. The story spread like wildfire, stoking white resentment. That night, an angry white mob, aided by local law enforcement, stormed Greenwood. The sky glowed red as businesses and homes were set ablaze. Planes flew overhead, dropping incendiary devices, the first time in U.S. history that aerial bombing was used on American soil. For 18 hours, chaos reigned. Families fled as gunfire echoed through the streets. By the time the violence subsided, over 1,000 Black-owned businesses and homes were destroyed, hundreds were killed, and thousands were left homeless. Greenwood, once a thriving symbol of Black success, was reduced to ashes. And then came the cover-up. For decades, the Tulsa Race Massacre was erased from textbooks, hidden from history. Survivors and their descendants received no reparations, no justice, just silence. But Greenwood's spirit never fully died, though it never regained its former prosperity. Survivors and their families rebuilt what they could, refusing to let history erase their legacy. Today, Black Wall Street stands as a powerful reminder of both Black resilience and the brutal realities of systemic racism. The story of Greenwood is not just history, it's a lesson, a warning, and an inspiration. Because even in the face of destruction, true excellence endures. Imagine waking up one day and the government tells you, "We're giving you land, a way to build wealth and a future for your family." Now, imagine they snatch it back just as fast. That's exactly what happened to newly freed Black Americans after slavery. A promise was made, a future was within reach. But in the end, it was stolen. Let's talk about 40 acres and a mule, what it meant, why it was taken away, and how it still affects us today. What was the promise? In 1865, during the final months of the Civil War, Union General William T. Sherman issued Special Field Order Number 15. This order set aside 400,000 acres of land along the coast of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, specifically for newly freed Black families. Each family was promised 40 acres of land, and in some cases, the military gave them mules left behind by the Confederate Army. For the first time, Black Americans could own land, build communities, and create wealth for future generations. It was a chance to start over, a chance to finally have something of their own. But that dream was short-lived. Why did African Americans expect it? For over 200 years, enslaved Black Americans built the economy of the South with their labor for free. So when slavery ended, many believed reparations were due. Land ownership meant survival. Without land, they had no way to farm, build businesses, or provide for their families. Leaders like Frederick Douglass argued that without land, Black Americans would remain trapped in poverty, still dependent on the very people who had enslaved them. For a brief moment, it looked like justice was coming. Families began settling on the land, farming and building a future. Then came the betrayal. Why didn't they receive it? In April 1865, President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. His successor, Andrew Johnson, had very different ideas about race and power. Johnson, a Southern sympathizer, immediately reversed Sherman's order. The land that had been given to free black families, he gave it back to white plantation owners, the same people who had enslaved them. Black families who had already begun farming and building homes were forced off the land. Instead of owning their own property, most were forced into sharecropping, a system where they had to rent land from white owners. But the system was rigged. They worked the land, but they never got ahead. It was slavery by another name. The long-term impact? This betrayal wasn't just about land, it was about wealth and power. Land ownership meant generational wealth. White landowners were able to pass their wealth down, while black families were stuck in cycles of poverty and debt. Without land, black Americans had little economic power. That led to segregation, discrimination in housing, and ongoing economic struggles that lasted for generations. Just imagine, if those 40 acres had been honored, black families could have built thriving communities, farms, and businesses, just like white Americans did. But they never got that chance. Why this matters today. 40 acres and a mule wasn't just land. It was a promise of freedom, a promise of a future, a promise that was stolen. And that's why understanding history is so important, because the effects of that betrayal are still being felt today. If this truth matters to you, share this video, because history shouldn't be forgotten. Imagine taking a road trip, but every hotel, gas station, and restaurant might refuse you service, or worse, put your life in danger. This was reality for black Americans during segregation. But there was one book that helped them navigate this dangerous world: the Negro Motorist Green Book. A secret weapon for survival on the road. But why was it needed? And what happened to it? Let's dive in. Before the Civil Rights Act of 1964, segregation was legal in many states. Black Americans faced Jim Crow laws, which banned them from entering certain hotels, restaurants, and even gas stations. Whites-only signs were everywhere, and ignoring them could lead to humiliation, arrest, or even violence. The sundown town's danger. These were towns where black people were warned not to be after dark, or they could be attacked. Traveling wasn't just about getting from A to B, it was about survival. But in 1936, one man had an idea that changed everything. Victor Hugo Green, a black postal worker in Harlem, created the Negro Motorist Green Book. He based it on a guide mail carriers used to find safe places while delivering in unfamiliar areas. His vision, a travel guide for black drivers to know where they could eat, sleep, and refuel without fear. But how did people get a copy of this life-saving book? It was published annually from 1936 to 1966. Black-owned businesses and friendly white establishments paid to be listed. It covered hotels, restaurants, gas stations, barbershops, nightclubs, and even private homes that rented rooms. One slogan read, "Carry your green book with you, you may need it." Many families kept it in their glove compartments, like a Bible for the road. So what kind of places were listed inside? some surprising places were included. Gas stations owned by major brands like Shell or Esso, which were some of the few companies that welcomed Black customers. Tourist homes, regular people opening their homes to Black travelers. Black-owned luxury hotels in major cities, like the Hotel Teresa in Harlem, were known as the Waldorf Astoria of Harlem. Safe beaches and resorts like Idlewild, Michigan, became popular Black vacation spots. But even with the Green Book, travel wasn't always safe. The Green Book couldn't stop police harassment or racist attacks. Some Black travelers disguised themselves as chauffeurs or carried food to avoid stopping in unsafe places. Even famous people needed the Green Book. Nat King Cole was beaten by white supremacists in Alabama during a tour. Baseball legend Jackie Robinson had to use it when traveling for games. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. used Green Book-listed locations during his civil rights work. So what happened to the Green Book? Why did it disappear? After the Civil Rights Act of 1964, segregation was outlawed, so in theory, Black travelers didn't need the Green Book anymore. The last edition was published in 1966. However, racism in travel didn't disappear overnight. Many Black travelers still faced discrimination. Today, traces of the Green Book remain. Some listed locations still exist. It inspired the 2018 Oscar-winning movie Green Book. Scholars are working to preserve its history. But is a modern version of the Green Book still needed? Even today, Black travelers still face challenges. Some create online guides for safe, welcoming spaces. Apps like Travel Noir help Black travelers find inclusive destinations. The Green Book's legacy lives on, reminding us how far we've come and how far we still have to go. The Green Book wasn't just a travel guide. It was a symbol of resilience, a testament to how Black Americans found ways to survive and thrive, even in a world set against them. And though the book itself is gone, its lessons remain. Know your history, stay prepared, and never stop moving forward. If you learned something new today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know, have you ever heard of the Green Book before? Let's keep this history alive. The man who made traffic safer, Garrett Morgan. Before the 1920s, driving was dangerous. Streets were a mess, cars, horses, and pedestrians all competing for space. But one man saw the problem and changed the way we drive forever. Meet Garrett Morgan, a brilliant Black inventor who revolutionized road safety. Back then, traffic signals had only two lights: stop and go. But Morgan realized this caused accidents when drivers didn't have time to slow down. So, in 1923, he patented a 3-position traffic signal, introducing the yellow light, a simple idea that gave drivers time to prepare. Today, every traffic signal around the world uses his design. He later sold his invention to General Electric, helping make roads safer for millions. Garrett Morgan's innovation still saves lives every single day, yet many don't know his name. like, and subscribe for more hidden Black history. Imagine a man whose face you might have seen in old photographs, standing shoulder to shoulder with presidents and great leaders, yet whose name has nearly vanished from our history books. This man is Walter F. Wright, a remarkable figure who once led the fight for civil rights in America. Born at the turn of the 20th century, Wright was a living paradox. Descended from both Black enslaved people and white plantation owners, his family could often pass as white. However, deep in his heart, Wright was rooted in the Black community of Atlanta, Georgia. This dual identity became both his strength and his secret weapon. As he once described himself, he was the enigma of a Black man occupying a white body. Wright's journey into activism began at an early age. In 1916, he played a key role in founding the Atlanta chapter of the NAACP. At that time, he courageously stood up against local efforts to strip Black children of their right to a 7th grade education. His passion for justice and equality quickly caught the attention of national leaders, and soon he was invited to join the NAACP in New York City. With his new role came incredible challenges and even greater risks. Walter F. Wright went undercover in the segregated South, disguising himself as a white man to gain access to dangerous territories. In these perilous missions, he documented the brutal realities of lynchings and mob violence that plagued the region. His first-hand reports shocked the nation and helped shine a light on the dark injustices faced by Black Americans. But his work didn't stop there. Wright became a tireless advocate for federal anti-lynching legislation. He testified before Congress and met with presidents, using his influence to push for change at the highest levels of government. Not only did he fight for justice in America's political corridors, but he also challenged negative portrayals of Black people in Hollywood, urging for better and more respectful representations on stage and screen. During World War II, Wright's reporting took him to Europe, where he exposed the discrimination faced by segregated Black units in the U.S. military. His efforts amplified the voices of those fighting for freedom abroad, even as they battled racism at home. Perhaps one of his most lasting legacies was his role in shaping the legal strategy that would eventually lead to the dismantling of segregation. As the head of the NAACP, Wright was instrumental in hiring a young Thurgood Marshall, along with legal strategist Charles Hamilton Houston. Their work would later be pivotal in the landmark Brown v. Board of Education decision, forever changing the landscape of American education. Walter F. Wright's life is a powerful reminder that history is often full of unsung heroes whose contributions have shaped our world. His bravery, intelligence, and unwavering commitment to justice broke down barriers and left a legacy that deserves to be remembered. Join us as we explore the secret life of a man who truly walked in two worlds, changing one of them for the better. Imagine living in a world where your history is erased, where the achievements of your ancestors, pioneers, inventors, leaders, are ignored, where your struggles, forgotten. That was the reality for Black Americans in the early 1900s. And if no one was going to tell their story, one man decided he would. His name was Carter G. Woodson, and what he did next would change the way history was taught forever. Woodson was born in 1875, just 10 years after slavery ended in the United States. His parents had been enslaved, but they made sure their children understood the value of education. Carter worked in coal mines as a teenager to support his family, but he never gave up on learning. He taught himself and later went on to earn a PhD from Harvard, only the second Black person in history to do so. But even as a highly educated man, Woodson noticed something disturbing. The history books ignored Black achievements. The stories of great African American leaders, scientists, artists, and activists were missing. It was as if Black people had contributed nothing to the world. That didn't sit right with Woodson. He knew the truth, and he was determined to make sure the world knew it too. In 1915, he founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History to research, document, and share Black history. But he wanted to go even further. He wanted a national celebration, a time dedicated to honoring Black achievements. So in 1926, he launched Negro History Week. He chose the second week of February because it included the birthdays of two important figures: Frederick Douglass, a formerly enslaved man who became a powerful abolitionist, and Abraham Lincoln, the president who signed the Emancipation Proclamation. At first, the idea spread slowly. Schools and communities in some cities took part, but many ignored it. That didn't stop Woodson. He kept writing, speaking, and pushing for Black history to be recognized as a vital part of American history. Decades later, in the 1960s and 70s, the civil rights movement brought new energy to the fight for recognition. Black educators and students at Kent State University expanded the celebration to a full month in 1970. And in 1976, during America's bicentennial, President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month, urging Americans to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans. Today, Black History Month is celebrated nationwide. Schools, businesses, and communities take time to reflect on the contributions of Black Americans. But Carter G. Woodson's vision wasn't just about 1 month. It was about changing the way history is taught forever. So, the next time you hear someone ask, "Why do we have Black History Month?" tell them this: because for too long, Black stories were erased, and one man had the courage to bring them back. Carter G. Woodson didn't just give us a month. He gave us back our history. In the early 20th century, the idea of performing surgery on the human heart was considered impossible, too delicate, too dangerous. But in 1944, a groundbreaking surgery changed that forever. Behind this medical revolution was a man history nearly forgot: Vivien Thomas. Born in 1910 in Louisiana, Thomas dreamed of becoming a doctor. But after the Great Depression wiped out his college savings, he took a job as a surgical assistant at Vanderbilt University under Dr. Alfred Blalock. What started as janitorial work quickly transformed. Blalock saw Thomas's brilliance and began training him in surgical techniques. Despite being labeled as a janitor, Thomas was performing complex laboratory surgeries on animals, helping Blalock study shock and later, heart defects. In the 1940s, a woman named Helen Taussig approached Blalock with a deadly problem. Infants born with blue baby syndrome had no cure. Blalock turned to Thomas. Without formal medical training, Thomas designed and perfected the surgical technique on animals. In 1944, Blaylock performed the first successful heart surgery on a baby, guided step by step by Thomas. The surgery made medical history. Blaylock and Taussig received global recognition, but Thomas's name was left out. For decades, he worked in the shadows, training future surgeons while being denied the title or respect he deserved. It wasn't until 1976, over 30 years later, that Johns Hopkins University awarded Thomas an honorary doctorate. He was finally recognized as a teacher of some of the world's most renowned surgeons. In 2004, HBO told his story in the film Something the Lord Made, shining a light on the man who helped pioneer modern heart surgery. Vivien Thomas passed away in 1985, but his legacy beats on in every life saved through heart surgery. His story is a powerful reminder that brilliance knows no color, and recognition should never be delayed.
If you were asked who created the modern-day hair weave used by millions of women earthwide of various nationalities, which name would come to mind? Her name was Christina Jenkins, and her creativity and determination completely transformed the beauty industry. Although her name isn't as famous as some, her contributions to hairstyling are still celebrated today. Christina Jenkins was born in Louisiana in the 1920s. She grew up in a time when options for hairstyling, especially for African Americans, were limited. But Christina saw hair as more than just something to style. She saw it as a form of art and self-expression. After attending Leland College, she began working in the hair care industry, where she noticed a common problem. People wanted fuller, longer hair, but there wasn't a long-lasting, effective way to achieve it. At the time, hair extensions were attached with glue, clips, or pins, but these methods didn't last long and could damage the natural hair. Christina believed there had to be a better solution. In 1951, Christina developed a new method for adding hair extensions. Her technique was called hair weave, and it was unlike anything that had been done before. Instead of gluing or clipping hair onto the scalp, Christina's method involved tightly braiding the natural hair and sewing the extensions onto the braids with a needle and thread. This process created a secure and natural-looking style that could last for weeks. The sewing technique not only made the hair extensions look more realistic, but also gave wearers more versatility with styling. Christina's invention allowed women to add length, volume, and texture to their hair without causing damage. Christina wasn't just a hairstylist. She was also a savvy businesswoman. She patented her hair weave technique in 1952, making her the official inventor of the hair weave. This patent protected her idea from being copied and allowed her to share her method with hairstylists around the world. Christina taught her technique at salons and beauty schools, helping others learn how to use her innovative process. Her work wasn't just about hair, it was about creating opportunities. By teaching her method, Christina empowered hairstylists to offer new services, helping them grow their businesses and build financial independence. The hair weave was more than just a hairstyle. It was a game changer for many women, especially African American women. During a time when beauty standards often excluded Black women, Christina's invention gave them more control over their appearance. It allowed them to experiment with different looks, embrace their creativity, and express themselves in new ways. Her invention also made hairstyling more accessible. Women who didn't want to relax or chemically straighten their hair could still enjoy long, flowing hairstyles using Christina's technique. The hair weave method celebrated natural hair while giving people the flexibility to try something new. Christina Jenkins's invention laid the foundation for the modern hair industry. Today, the hair weave has evolved into a multi-billion-dollar business, including products like sew-ins, lace fronts, and wigs. Her sewing technique remains a cornerstone of hairstyling and has inspired countless innovations. Even though Christina Jenkins isn't a household name, her contributions have left an undeniable mark. She not only invented a revolutionary hair technique, but also opened doors for creativity and entrepreneurship in the beauty world. Christina Jenkins's story is a reminder of the power of innovation and determination. She saw a problem, came up with a solution, and changed the world of beauty forever. Her legacy lives on every time someone gets a flawless weave or feels confident because of their hairstyle. So the next time you see a stunning hairstyle or try a weave yourself, take a moment to think about Christina Jenkins, the woman who believed in her idea and made it happen. Her invention wasn't just about hair. It was about helping people feel beautiful and confident in their own skin.